I'd like to call the May 22nd, 2017 Old Bridge Town Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for a prayer and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Panos, the prayer, please.
O Lord, bless thy servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve thee in this chamber. Give them quiet minds and hearts that they may hear thy voice. Help them to know when to speak and when to be silent. Give them the strength to oppose the wrong and uphold the right, and grant that they have a good conscience and soul at peace with thee and with one another. Amen.
Amen. As is customary in this chamber, we always stand for a moment of silence to honor those men and women who are serving both home and abroad to protect our freedoms, our first responders, and those that have given the ultimate sacrifice. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Please be seated.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice had been given to the newspaper, and notice of the meeting has been posted in public places. Next open public meeting of the council will be held on Monday, June 12th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. Ms. Dungy.
Present.
Dr. Greenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Ballas.
Here.
Mrs. Panos.
Here.
Mr. Rosencrantz.
Here.
Mrs. Sohor.
Here.
Mrs. Walker.
Here.
Mr. Cahill.
Here.
9 present.
9 present. We have a quorum. We'll go right into the body of the meeting. We're going to go right to the Certificate of Excellence presented to the Camp Robin Area 5 Special Olympics basketball team. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Well, last month we gathered for speed skating, and here we are again tonight for basketball. So again, what can you say about a program that provides this type of programming for the needs of our special needs children, our finest athletes, our hardest workers? So we're going to give out some certificates. At this time, I'd ask Coach, Coach Annie, and Ulrich, right? Ulrich. Okay, come on up. Give me a hand. You want to say something about the program? Thank you, guys. I really appreciate everyone's efforts.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's my turn. That's right. Coach Rick and I took over the program about 4 years ago. We were just a handful of athletes, and we really were not really planning on competing ever. We were just doing basketball drills, and I don't think either of us imagined what the program would become today when we first started. We are now, I think we just crossed over 30. We're 31 athletes, 4 years in, which is fantastic. One athlete split into going to be 4 teams next year, and we compete in the Special Olympics East League, which is right over in Sandburg, from January to March. And these guys, they practice 2 hours a week, every week on Wednesday from all the way from October to May. So it's a long, long season, but they really do a nice job. This year, our regular season from January to March, we played and we competed in the sectional tournament at Sandburg at the end of our season. And then teams who come in first or second place in the division actually get to make a really cool trip to Wildwood for the state championship. And this year we're really proud and excited to say that for the first time in our history, we had 2 teams make it, and we were so, so proud of them. So they did a really nice job this year. So before we get into their certificates, I just want to say a few quick thanks and acknowledgments. First, of course, as with all our Camp Robin programs, we really couldn't do what we do without the help of Pete and Barbara Anderson, who Camp Robin doesn't exist without them. So thank you. We'd also like to say thank you so much to Mayor Henry and, of course, the whole town council, not just for honoring us, but for making Old Bridge such a wonderful place to live and allowing us to run programs like this and other Camp Robin stuff. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And before we get into the athlete certificates, I just want to say one quick thing about our coaches and our volunteers, because honestly, I don't know how to say this any other way, but we absolutely have the best and the most passionate workers at our program. I've been doing Camp Robin for 10, 11 years now, and I've never met a group of people who's given so much to any one thing. These guys, day in and day out, every day on our little group chat, we see things about people thinking of new drills to run, new activities, and they've been nothing but exceptional coaches and role models both on the court and off the court to these athletes. So big round of applause to you guys. We couldn't do it without you. That being said, let's get to the fun part. We're going to do some certificates. So athletes, when you hear your name, you're going to come on up. You're going to give me, Coach Rick, and the mayor a big hand. And we're going to do the coaches first. All right, so our first coach is Matt Rosley, who's not here tonight. Next up, we have Ben Carroll. Next up, Matt Long. Next up, the head coach of one of our state teams, Anthony Manduca. And his right-hand man or woman, Jenna Diorio. Next up, we have John Rosalie. Next up, we have Kimberly Brolin, who couldn't be here tonight. Next up, we have Kelsey, new to our program this year. She was awesome. We have a certificate for one of our chaperones to our big Wildwood trip, Jen Tricarico, who couldn't be here. And of course, one more shout out for Pete Power, Robin Coordinator. All right, first athlete, Matthew Benetti from the Cougars. So I'll read one certificate so you see what it says. It's an excellence award. This one's for Louis Cavana, who couldn't be here tonight. It says, in recognition of your outstanding achievement, Old Bridge Robin Area 5 Special Olympics Basketball Program, Special Olympics NJ East Basketball League Sectional Tournament. Congratulations. He's on the Cougars, and the Cougars won a silver in Division 10 this year in sectional play. Also from the Cougars, we have Brian Chiarello.
Good job, Brian. Good job.
Next up, also from the Cougars, Justin George, who couldn't be here tonight. Next from the Cougars, Dylan Madrid. Next up from the Cougars, Myvie Wynn. Also from the Cougars, Robbie Liu. Also from the Cougars, Brendan Rosario. Nicholas Ruley from the Cougars. And last up from the Cougars, Jordan Shaw. The Cougars also won another silver medal at state competition. They did an awesome job this year. Next up are the Old Bridge Knights. These guys won a gold in sectionals, and I believe they also won a gold at states. They had a really fantastic year. We'll start off with Yamaj Abdi Suban. Next up, Tommy Antonazzi.
This is great.
Next up,
awesome.
Matthew Arvello. Diorio. He couldn't be here tonight, but a big part of the team, Christopher McMullen. Another star who couldn't be here, Daniel McNamara. Also couldn't be here, Madison McQuaid. And last one on the nights not to be here, Devin Miller. Next up, Jimmy Smith. Three teams. The Robins were so close to making it to states this year. They won a bronze medal in Division 6. All right, first up, not here tonight, Jeffrey Bodine. Ben Brackman. Next up, Alexander Casara.
Everybody at the house. Wish you Danny. Wish you shoot. Swimming, yeah.
Next up, Sal Lupino. Next up, Paul Pantano. Next up, Joseph Pilchuk. Next up, Scott Solomon.
This is great.
Big. Mark Zeloff. And we have two more special shout-outs. We had two athletes, one who joined just at the end of the season and one who loved to come to practice but wasn't so into the games. So we want to give them a special shout-out to Christopher Marquez. And last but not least, Stephen Brown.
Don't forget theirs.
Another round of applause for our athletes here. Thank you, guys.
Okay, great job to all the athletes. We're going to take a 5-minute break so the athletes and parents and friends can take off if they want. So great job, guys. Great job, athletes.
Absolutely.
I think the next one's track. Is the next one track, Mr. Mayor? I think the next one's track, right? I thought that he said it might be track, it might be back in the road. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, why don't we dive back into the body of the meeting? Mr. Mayor, we have another proclamation proclaiming Memorial Day, Monday, May 29th as Memorial Day, solemn day.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening again. I'd like to read a proclamation. In love of country that knows no limits, America's men and women in uniform exemplify patriotism at its core. Stepping into harm's way to protect our people and to safeguard the ideals we have long sustained our democracy. Those who serve under the Stars and Stripes embody the highest form of citizenship, and on Memorial Day, we pay solemn tribute to those brave Americans who laid down their lives to defend our freedom. Today and every day, let us remember the servicemen and women who have lost, and let us honor them by rededicating ourselves to strengthening our nation's promise. With love, grace, and reflection, let us honor our fallen fellow Americans, known and unknown, who sacrificed their freedom to ensure our own. All who wear the uniform of the United States are serving at a crucial hour in history, and each has answered a great call to serve our nation on the front lines of freedom. As we continue to fight terrorism and promote peace and freedom, let us pray for their safety and strength of our troops, their families, and for those who have lost loved ones. On Memorial Day, we honor all those who were prisoners of war, those who were declared missing in action, and all those who have fallen by remembering their noble sacrifice for freedom. We mourn with the families and friends of those who have lost and hope they find comfort in knowing their loved ones died with honor. We ask for God's grace to protect those fighting in distant lands, and we renew our promise to support our troops, their families, and our veterans. Now, therefore, I, Owen Henry, Mayor of Old Bridge Township, Middlesex County, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim this Memorial Day, May 29th, 2017, a solemn day our country unites to pay tribute to the fallen, which demonstrated the strength of their convictions and paid the ultimate cost for freedom. Thank you. We will be having our Memorial Day services starting on Friday, and I will be announcing them a little later in the administrative report. But I know it was only a few sentences, but it speaks volumes of the people who continue to fight for our country. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we're going to jump over to a presentation given by Gable Associates on the energy aggregation program.
I'll start. Ready? Good evening, all council. As you know, remember, I guess it was about 2 years ago? We started a program in town called Energy Aggregation. We had a nickname for it, Energy Aggravation at the time. There was a lot of controversy in putting that program together. And what it was, where the township went out and received the price for the residential electric for the entire town, the residential homes at which you live in. And as a result of that, we've saved quite a bit of money, the township as a whole, collectively, and we'll get into some of that, how much money was actually saved. And what we'd like to do tonight is do it again. Our contract is expiring, we'll have all the details, but we'd like to do it again to continue that savings for our residents. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Gable Associates, and he can answer some of your questions. He can give you a little bit more in-depth about what's going on in the market and how it works and why it's going to still work for the township, and so.
Great. I know you've been here a couple times, but just your name and who you are for the record and that kind of.
Absolutely. My name is Bob Chilton. I'm Executive Vice President with Gable Associates, and it's nice to see everyone again. Just as a way of a brief recap, as the mayor indicated, you started this program in December 2014 by passing an ordinance to authorize the formation of the program. That's the first step required under the state's rules governing energy aggregation. We subsequently went out to bid for power supply for residential accounts in town. The first time we went out to bid was in March of 2015. As you recall, the initial bids were not delivering sufficient savings. So we took a pass on those bids. Waited for the market to improve. In October of 2015, we went out to bid again. At that time, the bids were much better. We had 5 bids that were submitted. The low bid was from South Jersey Energy at a price that was about 15% below the JCP&L price to compare. So a contract was awarded for a 21-month period. That contract term started in March of last year, 2016. It runs up until December of 2015, so it runs until this December.
17.
Oh, I'm sorry, 17. So the way the process worked is we have, as we've discussed at length, I think when we were first forming the program, it's based on an opt-out process. So all residential accounts are initially eligible and included in the program, except those that already have a third-party supply contract or those that already have solar. So the remaining residents, and those were a little north of 20,000 residential accounts with JCP&L, were initially included. We had a 30-day opt-out period, which began at the beginning of January of last year. There was a mailing, there was a public information session, there was a 30-day opt-out period, which ended in early February. Based upon the initial eligibility and then the opt-outs, ultimately about 18,000 resident households were ultimately initially enrolled in the program. Over the last year, that number has gradually dwindled down. It's about 11,000 now. That is reflective of 2 things. There have been some opt-outs, because the way the program works is an initial 30-day opt-out period, but then there's an open-ended opt-out. You can opt in anytime you want without any repercussions, any penalties. Most of the attrition, honestly, comes from gradually as folks move. When people move out, their account gets closed out, and they're obviously removed from the program. The new folks that move in, because it's a new account that was not in existence when the program started, they're not automatically enrolled. They have to opt in. So there's sort of a gradual attrition, which always happens with all these programs. So currently, there's about 11,000 households currently participating. As I said, the price was about 15% below the JCP&L price to compare. That's about 15% savings. So through the first year of the contract, so that would have been through March, the savings have been about $140 on average per participating household. That's about $2 million township-wide over the first year of the program. It's anticipated by the end of the program in December, it'll be closer to $3 million of total savings, about $200 per participating household. So that's sort of what's happened so far. Under the state's rules, it's a pretty lengthy process to go through another contract. There's a lot of steps that are required by the Board of Public Utilities. So actually, to have a contract that were to start in December, if you chose to do this program again, really you'd have to start the process next month in June to get us to the point of being able to award a contract for December, so there was continuity in the program. Okay, you're not required to have continuity. There are, I think the mayor alluded to, we've had some discussions. The way the energy markets are, prices are generally highest for the January and February months, in the winter months. So if you go out to bid for a contract starting in December, chances are that those bid prices might be a little bit higher than a contract that started after the winter, say in March. But the way you can do a bid, and we've done many of these, you can structure a bid to ask for prices for different start dates and then compare the pricing and make a decision at the time. And again, as with last time, you're not obligated. Even if a request for proposals is issued and advertised, you're not obligated to award a contract. We accept the bids, analyze the bids, present the evaluation of the savings, and ultimately it's the council's call on whether or not to award a contract, either starting in December or sometime thereafter. And we can talk, when we see the bid results, about the pros and cons. Obviously, in general, continuity is probably preferred, so you don't have a period where the folks participating are switched back to JCP&L, and then say several months later, they're switched back to the new supplier. So generally speaking, having been through a lot of these programs in the last 5 years or so, most municipalities prefer to have continuity, but it doesn't always work due to pricing. So then there's, then you can weigh the pros and cons of perhaps a little better price starting a little later, or continuity. But those are decisions you can make in real time when you see the bid results and the difference in the prices. So just real quickly on how the process would work if you decided to go ahead with the second round of the program. The 6-month process basically entails us filing new bid documents with the Board of Public Utilities. They have a 30-day review period. The request for proposals would be issued in July. Sometime in August, there would be acceptance of bids, and if the bids were favorable, an award of a contract. And then there's the 30-day opt-out process. There's a period, about a month period, for JCP&L to process a switching of accounts to the new supplier. So all those steps basically take about 6 months from beginning to end. So if you were interested in going ahead with another round, and your preference was to at least have the opportunity to award a contract starting in December, really the time to start that process would be next month, to start the various steps that have to be followed. And also, just noted here at the end, your authorizing ordinance forming the program, which was passed in December of 2014, expires the end of this year. So ideally, you'd want to, if you want to do this, pass another ordinance just renewing the program. Really any time, I guess, by December. But ideally, I think you'd want to pass it before you were taking bids for the new contract, or at least in the contract we're starting. So that's really a quick overview of where we are and what would be required, and certainly I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions from council? Mrs. Walker?
Yes, you had said some people moved in and they are not on the program. With this new round, would they be absorbed into that?
They would. What happens once the contract award is made under the rules, we notify JCP&L, and then they provide to the township, to the consultant, a current list of all residential accounts in town that don't already have another third-party supplier, or don't have, or they include accounts that have solar. We pull the solar accounts out because they're better off not having it. So the short answer is yes, they will all be included.
And the people that previously opted out, would they have to opt out again, or they will remain opt out?
That is your choice when we do the bid specifications. The BPU rules do not speak to that issue. I will tell you that almost every, if not every town that we've done this for, and they've gone through a second round, have decided to remove the round one opt-outs from the round two. So if folks express that desire to not participate, they would not automatically be included, and therefore would not have to opt out a second time. Those folks would be welcome to opt in if they've changed their mind based upon talking to their neighbors over the last couple of years. But our recommendation, the way it's generally handled, is we get that list from South Jersey Energy. of the opt-outs, and we remove them from the list we get from JCP&L, so they would not have to opt out a second time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions from council?
Just one
Mr.
question,
Miles?
Sir, is there any particular time you notice more opt-outs than others? I mean, during the year?
Oh, sure, the overwhelming majority were in that first 30-day period, or shortly thereafter. There's a second notification. What happens is we have the full package, which notifies folks about the program and all the details and their opportunity to opt out. And after the initial 30-day period, the supplier enrolls the accounts with JCP&L, and under the Board of Public Utilities Customer Protection Rules, there's an automatic second notification from JCP&L, which is not related specifically to a community energy aggregation program. It's for anybody that's switched for any reason on their own. It's an automatic mailer from JCP&L that is generated. It says, hey, South Jersey Energy just requested to switch your account. Is this what you want? And so that generates generally a second wave of opt-outs. I would say primarily folks that don't really understand that the second letters are related to the first one. And that's something we're actually been working with the BPU for a couple of years on, to try to customize that second letter, because it's a generic letter, and make it clear that it's related to the town's GEA program. Because I think the second wave of opt-outs is largely sort of folks that are not necessarily connecting the second letter with the first letter. But so those two waves combined are in the first 45 days, and that would be the vast majority. After that, I mean, we get a trickle of opt-outs. Honestly, we probably get more opt-ins than opt-outs after the initial 45 days. And then you have this gradual attrition just when folks are moving, et cetera.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
I think it's a great program to save money, for all the residents. Is there anything that we could do with natural gas as well as electricity?
So the rules allow you to do a natural gas program. I do not recommend that, and we've never done one in the state. The primary reason is that unlike the electric rates, which are fixed for a year, I'm talking about the JCP&L tariff, they're fixed for a year. They are very predictable from year to year because there's a 3-year portfolio of contracts which are known, are transparent, and so every year 1/3 of JCP&L's portfolio turns over. And so it's a very predictable, gradual change in rates. By contrast, the natural gas rates are A, unpredictable, B, they're very low. I mean, generally speaking, they're lower than what the market could deliver. And it's also, I'll be honest with you, it's more of a black box in how those rates are set than the electric side. So I have a lot less confidence, even if the rates at the time of the bid happen to be lower than, the contract prices have to be lower than the tariff, I would have much less confidence in coming before you and saying, I'm confident that over the next 12 or 18 months, it's going to stay that way. So really, I think folks get the best deal in the gas side from the utility, just the way their rates are set. So I don't recommend following that. It would be nice, but I don't think it's a good idea, frankly.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I think it's a great program. Obviously, it's paid dividends, literally, for the residents. When we first launched into this, you mentioned this, Mr. Mayor, there was a lot of, misinformation. I mean, at the end of the day, I think residents just need to understand that JCP&L is not removed from the equation, right? There's been a lot of noise in that industry because of the third party and some of those companies out there that have kind of taken over the customer account, if you will, right? In this scenario, JCP&L still is your infrastructure company. They're still your biller. It's just a line item, and by the way, JCP&L does not generate energy. A lot of people think they do, they don't. So they're buying the energy. All we're doing is doing a bulk purchase and reducing the residents' rates. So it's really a no-brainer. It is confusing. It's a confusing industry, and there's a lot of questions, rightly so, because people have been, hurt and slammed by, these third parties out there. But I think it's a great program, and I'm all for pushing this forward for another 30 months. So.
And if I may, just to follow up on your comments, our experience has been in second and third rounds that towns have done, the opt-out rates are a lot lower. Opt-ins are actually a lot higher. And the main reason is, as you said, there's a lot of concern. And, folks understandably are apprehensive about, is my service going to change?
Right.
Is the utility not going to come out when the lights go out?
Right.
And I think the experience over the first round where folks say, hey, nothing changed. I still get my meter read. I still get my bill every month.
Right.
The lights are staying on. And so our experience has been the second time around, opt-out rates are way down and opt-ins a lot of folks that opted out first time actually decide to opt back in. So.
That's great. Any other comments? Mr. Green?
That's the same comment as far as those people who take solar. They can't, what they call, get off the grid, they have to stay on the grid, right? In other words, if they, if something
mic on,
happens with
Mr.
their
Green?
solar. What I was saying was, it's pretty much what you just said as far as the solar
Right.
systems. People are, they're selling solar, which may work out fine for people, but they do have to stay on the grid, so to speak. They still have to stay with Jersey Central.
They absolutely do, for two reasons. One, they're backup power because the solar at night, you know, et cetera, and when it's cloudy, doesn't produce everything. And also, the other thing, the way that they're interconnected, for safety reasons, if the grid does go out, there's an automatic kill switch, so basically the solar systems are disconnected so they can't backfeed into the system. So they can be separated from the grid, but they're certainly integrated and they remain part of the grid. You can't separate. I mean, there are some, out in remote areas, mountainous areas, or state parks, national parks, not so much in Jersey, but in, other remote areas there. Sometimes are grid disconnected solar projects, but certainly not your typical residential project. They are connected to the grid, dependent on the grid for when the sun is not shining. And they have, like I said, safety mechanisms to disconnect them from the grid.
And we always rely on the infrastructure that JCP&L provides us.
Just as much as everyone
Right.
else, absolutely.
Any other comments? Mrs. Soha?
Yeah, I also want to say thank you because the presentations that we had at that time were wonderful. They really were. There was so much anxiety, questions. Can I stay on a budget? There was a myriad. And you really answered everything very thoroughly, very transparently, and I think that was very important at the time. So I think it's gone very well, and I think it's a very smart initiative.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I think we're in good shape. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the meeting, the approval of minutes of the previous meetings. We have a combined meeting, April 17th, 2017. Can I get a motion, please?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Rosencrantz. I have a second.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Panos. Any questions on the April 17th minutes? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Abstain.
Mr. Green?
Abstain.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And Mr. President Cahill?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. 7 yes, 2 abstain.
Thank you. Executive session minutes, April 17th, 2017. Can I get a motion, please?
Move it.
Moved by Mrs. Panos. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rosencrantz. Any questions, comments? Seeing, hearing none, roll call, please. Executive session.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Abstain.
Mr. Green?
Abstain.
Mr. Mollis?
Abstain.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And President Cahill?
Yes.
2, 3. It's 6 yes, 3 abstain.
Great. That completes the minutes. I'll go into the bill list. Mr. Rosencrantz?
Thank you. Bill list from May 22nd, tonight's meeting. Accounts payable, May 22nd, 2017, $7,875,522.61.
Can I get a motion, please? I'll move it. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. Panos. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Cahill?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. Payroll, May 28th, 2017, $945,584.55.
May 28th.
Move it.
12th, May 12th.
Okay.
Typo.
12th. Who moved it? Thank you, Mrs. Sohar. And I have a second, please.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Dungy. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And President Cahill?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll overtime, May 12th. May 12th, 2017, $41,970.87.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Moved by Mrs. Pownds, can I have a second? I'll second it. Mr. Shaw, can you do the breakout, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. As Councilman Rosencrantz indicated, the total overtime was $41,970.87. The, outside of the police department, the one thing I want to highlight again is the parking capital overtime. That was for the continued work by Public Works employee to put in LED lights in the parking lot. Instead of bidding that, engineer, recommended that we purchase the material, and we have staff install the light, which was at a lot better savings, less cost and savings. So I think that's the final overtime on the LED lights in the parking capital. There is additional work that still continue to be done by the Public Works employee. Moving to Police Department, the total overtime represents, the sworn officers' overtime was $32,453.84. When you deduct the grant of $2,322.53, deduct the ETO of $6,227.82, the net overtime for a sworn officer is $23,903.49, which represents 486.50 hours. We had 3 officers on light duty. We have a 2 vacancy, and 1 officer is on military duty.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Shaw on the overtime? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy.
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Mollis.
Yes.
Mrs. Panos.
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz. Mrs. Sohor.
Yes.
Mrs. Walker.
Yes.
President Cahill.
Yes.
9 yes.
That concludes the bill list for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rosencrantz. Moving on to ordinances for second reading. Ordinance number 1, 2017-12, ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge approving application for financial agreement HHFT Holdings, LLC, Runyon Development, Kennedy Pilot Program. Can I get a motion introduced, please?
Make a motion, sir.
Moved by Mr. Mollis. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sohor. Thank you. Anybody from the public want to be heard before we go to council? I'll close the public portion. Any comments, questions from council on this item?
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Time goes by very fast, but maybe it was a couple of months ago, we were asked to approve an application from the redevelopment agency to allow this particular firm to be part of that program. And council did that because we felt that this was a good thing for that area of town. Then they come back with this approval for this pilot. I'd like to know why we didn't get both of them at the same time. I know the talks were going on from the very beginning. I'm sure that's why, part of the deal is why they wanted to accept the redevelopment's proposal to allow them to build their warehouse.
Councilman,
I'd like to know why we weren't given the facts all at once.
Just name and address, please, for the record.
sure. Kevin McManaman, Scotland and Bauman, counsel to the redevelopment agency. I think, Councilman Green, what you're referring to as the prior event was the council's approval of the redevelopment plan, which is essentially the zoning
Yes.
for the area.
Yes.
And at the time, procedurally, that redevelopment plan needed to be approved by the council to put in place the zoning as the foundation for the project. And then we continued. I don't think we had at the time resolved all of the negotiations
We
with the
weren't given the
developer at
facts
time.
that this was going on. That's my problem. You know, there was a working in order to give them a tax break as part of the whole redevelopment approval.
I think that we made clear that at that time, we were negotiating a redevelopment, the terms of the redevelopment project with the developer, and that at the time, many of those terms had not yet been resolved. I thought that there was actually
Was
discussion.
it ever discussed at
I'm
that
sorry?
time? Was it ever discussed at that time?
Was whatever discussed that.
Pilot program.
I believe it was, because I believe one of the reasons why we mentioned the fact that the developer had gone through the zoning process in front of the zoning board, and then also on a parallel track, pursued redevelopment was that because the redevelopment process was the foundation for the tax exemption that's now before
I
you.
just don't like getting things drips and drabs, you know? We'll pass this for redevelopment, and then we'll come back with the pilot. I think we should have been all told the big picture from the very beginning. And you admitted it. You said there was some kind of discussions or talk about the pilot program.
Yeah, I thought that what you were saying now is that there wasn't that. I guess my point is I think there was some discussion at that time about
Okay.
the fact that there was the tax exemption was was one of the terms that we had been negotiating with the developer along the way.
Why weren't we told about that at the time?
I believe we did discuss that at the time. I think that's what I'm trying to say
Not to
now.
me.
is that-
I'm having a little hard time understanding,
Well, the fact of the
disagreeing
matter
with
is, we got
the
two people-
details of the pilot have just been worked out about a month ago. This whole process of the redevelopment area started a year ago. So I don't know how you were going to attach something you don't know, you don't have the details. There's the next pilot, the next person coming, it's going to be completely a different set of negotiations. I mean,
What
we
I'm
were
saying
clear
is,
that with the
as part of
redevelopment,
the
that there would be a
redevelopment-
pilot involved. We didn't have the details.
As part of the redevelopment, there were talks about a pilot.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons they'd agreed to
Point.
come here.
That's my point.
We didn't,
Why was this whole discussion brought up? We're gonna approve this redevelopment plan, and at the same time, this is one of the things that we're negotiating and talking about.
I think that's what we said all along.
I never heard pilot before.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Any other comments on this application? Second. Nobody? Dr. Greenberg?
Yes, I think it's a very positive program. That area's been blighted for a long time, and there's going to be a lot of improvements in that area to the roadway, lighting, safety for the people that travel that road. And by doing this initial phase, it will stimulate future development in that area. So I think it's a win-win for the town. It will bring jobs. It will help small businesses in the area flourish also by the amount of people working there. So I really think it is a positive thing. And as I said, as far as with the area, when you go by there right now, it's very unsightly, and they've committed to improve the area. And there will be money, which was explained at the last meeting, how much money it would be coming into the town. So I commend you for the work that you've done and for bringing industry into this area without having any negative impact on our school systems. It's in an area where the roadways, with improvements that you're going to do, is only going to benefit that area manyfold over. And so I'm glad to see something happening in this town that will bring jobs, help the tax base, and really improve an area that's been in much of need for a long time. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mrs. Sohar and then Mrs. Walker?
Yes, every time we go through, a new election cycle and so on, there's always a discussion of ratables. And everyone is in agreement that we do need clean ratables in town in order to maintain a good tax base and to help with the school system as well. But this time, again, as Dr. Greenberg said, this is something positive, not just for that area, but for the whole town. We're starting to brand the town as a place to come and do business. And I think this has been a really positive thing for us. We have to continue on this road, and I think we've started something now that will really take us into the future. Thank you.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes, I think this is a positive thing for the town. It's not going to put a burden on our school systems like some of the apartments have, and I just think it's a positive thing for the area.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes, I actually was on the redevelopment agency when this came before us, and I'm glad everybody appreciates what a job was done back then. And still, there's yet more to be done. This still has to go before a planning board or some other board for when they finally develop it, correct?
Actually, they already have their approvals. They went through the process in front of the zoning board and got the necessary approvals for that. That's what we were saying. At the same time, they also went through the redevelopment process in order to lay the foundation for the tax exemption that's now before the council.
Okay, the traffic studies and everything?
That was all done at the zoning board level.
Okay, I'm not on the zoning board,
Yeah.
but I was on the redevelopment,
Yeah.
and I'm glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, there
Was a
were,
part of this.
yeah, there was some discussion, I believe, in front of that board about the infrastructure improvements that are needed, and that's all part of the approval process.
And just to clarify, when I was on the redevelopment, there was no discussion of tax abatement or anything like that. We just saw this as a good project.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Already have a motion, a second, thank you, though. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Cahill,
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Preliminary public comments to council, subject to the following conditions and restrictions. One, during the preliminary public portion of the meeting, any person may address the Township Council on one subject for a maximum period of 5 minutes. Any such person desiring to speak during the preliminary public portion shall first sign a list maintained by the Township Clerk for such purpose. Comments during the preliminary public comment portion of the meeting shall not encompass second reading ordinances or any other matter for which comment or public hearings to occur at the meeting. Everybody signed up?
Yes, sir. Stephen Goldman?
Good evening. Just address for the record, Mr. Goldman.
Steve Goldman, 8 Darien Court, in the Country Place development. About a month ago, the administration, Chris Marin, the mayor, and Nicole Shapiro did an amazing presentation to the town council regarding the road issues in the Country Place. There was no public comment allowed at that meeting, so we couldn't get up. I just want to thank Nicole, especially Nicole, because I know that she did 30 years of research on what was going on at the development. It was so nice to see facts finally come out after 30 years as to what's been going on over 30 years. So thank you, Nicole. Before Chris left, he told me that Nicole had to do one more thing, and then it was going to go on for an ordinance for first reading. I was hoping it was going to be on tonight. Obviously, it wasn't. I understand Nicole was away for a week. So can somebody just give me an idea when, because I'm getting calls from people in my development who watched the meeting and thought it was coming on for first. So we've been waiting a long time for this. So.
Yeah, if Nicole can answer. I just want to clarify something you said. So it's any public comments that was a council discussion item. So I want to be clear for the record, though.
No. I understood when I was at the meeting that we couldn't comment.
Right.
I wanted to thank everybody. And
I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Nicole.
Council President Cahill, just to refresh everyone's memory, back I had said that the DPW director and myself were going out and doing ward tours, taking an independent look at the roadways that haven't been resurfaced within the last 10 years. What has been done in the last 10 years, what's left over, and how can we move forward. Originally, I had said, I'm going to come back with the first 3 wards because that was at least doable. But then the DPW director, Kyle, and myself were going out, and I said, you know what, I need to get a picture of the entire town. Let's do every single ward. So we've completed 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and we're moving on to 5 and 6. We actually started 5 last week, continuing 5 this week and 6. And then we'll have a clearer picture for the first meeting in June, which I believe is the 12th, right?
June 12th.
So without coming to this one, and obviously my vacation did hamper a little bit of our progress, so I was hoping, let me come back on June 12th with a clearer picture of all the wards. And then we have certainly ranked already the roads within Country Place, but without having every single ward done, I still don't have that picture yet.
Okay, we as I explained to a lot of people in administration, the Country Place doesn't want any special handling. We've already said, because we were asked, that at least for the next 3 years, we don't need any paving, regular paving, milling and paving. We'll concede to that already. And after that, only when Nicole and the administration feels it's needed. So if they don't have to be done for 10 years, they don't have to be done for 10 years. That's fine. We're not asking, we want to be treated like, say, with South, like Lake Ridge, like any other development. We do not want any special handling. Yeah, if there's a pothole, yeah, the town's been doing that anyhow for the last 3 years. They'll come and do that. So I just wanted to make sure that it disappear again for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't know if it'll be on for June 12th for an ordinance, do you? Or I just, because I know there's no public comment on first reading, but I'm sure there's going to be people in my development that when the final vote takes place, they're going to want to come down and observe. So I just want to just keep it on track.
An idea of what I have planned for June 12th is a presentation on the ranking of each of the roadways left over in each ward. So it'll give me an idea of what would be sort of a 5-year outlook on our paving. So instead of coming to you yearly with, this is what I think it's this year, then I could say, hey, this is my outlook for the next 5 years on our paving program. And then we could see, well, does Country Place fall, any of the roads within Country Place fall within the next 5 years? Does it fall within the next 10 years? Because what I don't want to say is put a moratorium on a community and then have public health and safety be compromised by that.
Right.
So I just want to get a clear picture going forward. Hey, here's the 5 years. How does Country Place, fall out? Just as an added bonus of that presentation. But the idea is, what does our capital improvement program look for annual resurfacing for the next 5 to 10 years?
Right.
I'm just confused because if we're agreeable, which we are, to the engineering department making the final decision, anyhow, wherever it is, why should that stop the ordinance? That's what I'm concerned about. So in other words,
I'm not sure what ordinance you're talking about.
Our ordinance for first reading to take.
Right, so what Nicole's going to do is, because she's putting together a presentation for the township as a whole.
Right.
To look at, she's going to rank the streets across, so you could turn that. She's going to rank the streets across the township by, age, infrastructure, et cetera. And then she's going to present that to council. That information, and stop me when I say something dumb, goes into our capital improvement program to say, okay, if, X street is in dire need, that would go to the top of the list, that would probably be included in our capital program. That's how the process would progress.
Okay, I'm still confused, but I accept what you're saying. I thank you again, Nicole, thank you so much for all the hard work. I mean, a lot of council people came over to me who knew, and they said, well, we finally understand what happened over the last 30 years, and thank you very, very much.
I think what would make it easier for council to get to the point of perhaps thinking in their mind to accept the roads in Country Place is if they say, well, look at the conditions. The conditions call that they don't even need to be resurfaced within the next 10 years. So that's just a picture that we would like to have them gain,
Right.
in addition to the presentation that I had given last time.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Philip McGovern.
Good evening.
Philip McGovern, 201 Yorkshire Court in Society Hill. When I speak to people around town, the biggest problem for many of them is not litter, it's not traffic, it's not even property taxes. The biggest problem is getting a permit to improve their homes. They say that in their dealings with the Code Enforcement Department, every inch is a struggle, that it seems that every permit application is denied the first time. A few meetings ago, a gentleman spoke before this council about the difficulties he had in getting approval. My wife and I have recently run into this problem ourselves. We have a deck in the back of our townhouse that is 12 feet by 12 feet by 12 inches high. It has no rails of any kind. We simply want to replace and expand it to 12 feet by 16 feet by 12 inches high, and we want to add a step for our elderly guests. The permit application was submitted by a licensed contractor on April 6th. It was denied by building subcode official Mr. Matt McGowan in a letter to us dated 5/1. The letter stated that, quote, based on submission, a licensed New Jersey design professional is recommended at this time, unquote. In other words, we had to hire an architect to submit drawings. For a small deck, we had to hire an architect. This makes no sense to us. So since April 6th, we have yet to have our deck installed. The Code Enforcement Department is choking people, and getting a permit to improve your home will remain, according to many Old Bridge residents, the biggest problem in town. Thank you.
Who's next on this?
Jennifer Long.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jennifer Leong, I live in Matawan. I first became can you hear me?
That's better.
I first became acquainted with the Old Bridge Animal Shelter in the summer of 2014 when my family and I went in just to look at the cats. Our 16-year-old cat had died 2 years earlier. After much begging from my children and me saying I wasn't ready, we found a perfect 2-year-old cat. We welcomed Mooney to our family. We were so impressed with the cleanliness of the shelter, the knowledge of the staff, and the helpful volunteers that we returned a month later to find a friend for Mooney. Over the years, I have actively volunteered at OBAS, whether it was cleaning cages, feeding and socializing cats, creating flyers to promote the shelter, or supporting new adopters with their challenges. I enjoyed every moment because I was part of an incredible team, and we were making a positive difference. My family and I started fostering ferals that needed to be socialized in the fall of 2015. Our first pair were amazing. Uno and baby Domino, our first two are amazing pair. Our first two were an amazing pair that we would have liked to keep, but Domino and baby Uno didn't need us any longer, and they were ready for a permanent home together. Domino would have been fine on his own, but little Uno needed Domino. Once back at the shelter, there was a lot of interest, but only in baby Uno. Fortunately, the shelter staff listened to us, the fosters, and they waited for the perfect family that would take them both. Most of our following fosters were feral, really feral, completely unsocialized. We'd bring them home, gain their trust, teach them that humans, including small children, were kind and lovable, bring them back, and they would be adopted. And I'm proud to say that all of our foster cats have been adopted, and they all went to wonderful, loving families, except for one, and that was Daisy. The one we fostered for 8 weeks, because she needed the 8 weeks. She was so sweet and gentle and so scared of everything. The reason I'm here tonight is because of Daisy. I'd like to read a letter to you that I sent to the shelter coordinator on April 26th, and that has been shared and discussed with Captain Mandola. Dear Karen, as I've mentioned to you several times, we enjoyed fostering Daisy. She was so scared of everything when she first arrived. She progressed slowly. Every advancement that she made brought us so much joy. The day that she climbed into my lap was amazing. The day she climbed into my daughter's lap, incredible. The day that she climbed into my 6-year-old crazy little boy's lap was unbelievable. Daisy loved to sleep with my daughter. She loved other pets. She loved looking out the window. Her only issue was that when she urinated in the litter box, she didn't squat down. She was so sweet and gentle, and she was so happy to be loved. On November 8, 2016, when Daisy went to live with the lady that took Tubby, we'd hoped it was a good chance for her. You had told me that the lady was very knowledgeable about cats. She had a big house, lots of space, and a large fenced-in yard. I would often ask for updates. One of the first updates was that Daisy was urinating and living in a closet. I felt awful for Daisy as she was a super sweet cat who loved to be with people and to look out the window. Updates didn't come very often. I remember that several times you told me that there wasn't any news or you hadn't heard from the lady. I eventually got an update from Marion that said she was an indoor-outdoor cat, kind of. Based on that information, I'd imagined that Daisy divided her time inside and outside of the house. It all changed this past Friday, April 21st, when I was at the shelter. I was socializing the cats in the boys' run when you came into the cat room and gave me an update about Daisy. You told me that Daisy had scratched the lady and that Daisy lives outdoors. I asked you if there was a cat house outside for her or if she could go in the shed or garage when it's cold outside or bad weather, and you told me no. You told me that Daisy lives outside under the shed and that sometimes the lady's daughter sees her. I was incredulous. How could this happen to sweet, lovable Daisy? My family and I fostered Daisy for 8 weeks. She never once showed any sign of hostility. She loved people. It seemed that Daisy only wanted to be loved. What happened in this woman's house? If you know that Daisy's living outside under a shed, why do you allow it? How secure is the fenced-in yard? Why don't you go to the lady's house and take Daisy back? Hasn't she broken the contract that she signed when she took Daisy? Is this any way for Daisy to live? If this is how Daisy is being treated, I worry about the safety of the other Old Bridge Animal Shelter cats, Tubby, Toodles, and Peanut now, that you have allowed her to take. I strongly recommend that Daisy be brought back to Old Bridge Animal Shelter. I also suggest that Tubby, Toodles, and Peanut's current situation at the ladies' home be evaluated. I look forward to hearing what will be done to rectify this situation. I urge all of you to please do the right thing for Daisy and all of the other Daisies that come along. Please help the Old Bridge Animal Shelter get back on a positive path. The shelter could be such a huge benefit for the community of Old Bridge.
Okay, you gotta
I
finish
thank
up.
you in advance for your
Thank you.
cooperation.
Tony Pescetti?
Tony Pescetti, 40 Southwood Drive. And I'm reading my notes because I'm not really good at public speaking. So, my name is Tony Pescetti. I live at 40 Southwood Drive, and I've been a resident there for 30 years. And in fact, I've been a lifetime resident of Old Bridge, growing up on Margaret Street in Sarah South. Since I was 5, my parents raised me in this town, and my wife Kathy and I raised our 4 children in this town. I'm very glad that my parents brought me here to Old Bridge because this is a really great town, has a great location, it's got great people. I'm very proud of this town, and I've served in the town for a big portion of my life. I've been very involved in my church, in Pop Warner football for many years, on the board there as president, treasurer, and trustee, and coached the boys' football team. I've served on the Old Bridge CERT team as vice president for 2 years and still a member today. I volunteered as a poll worker coordinator for over 10 years. I've been involved in the Republican Party for many years, working on successful campaigns to change the entrenched politicians on the council and the mayor's seat. I've gotten to the point once again where I feel this sickening in the pit of my stomach when I observe the council meetings live or on YouTube. The silly bickering and obvious opposition has got me to the point where I must take a stand and speak out and run for council myself. Speaking to the residents, there seems to be a common thread. The residents don't feel like neighbors when they come to the town to resolve issues. I'm hearing that some township employees don't want to be bothered, like you're interrupting their day. This needs to change. Phil McGovern just spoke about the code enforcement, a lot of complaints. Now back to the council, and I think this is part of the issue. Recently with the TNR, those who don't know, that's the Trap, Neuter, and Release program that the council finally approved after months and months of bickering and obstruction. Voting no, Joe Mollis, Lucio Panos, Brian Cahill, Alan Rosenkrantz, and Rich Green. Check it out on YouTube. Then last week in the newspaper, Brian Cahill claiming victory as his own after he was the lead obstructionist to allow a first reading. If anyone doubts me on this, they are free to go to YouTube and look at the council meetings and see the behavior. It was only when the residents came to the council meetings that the heat was felt and a change of vote occurred. Is that what it takes for you to behave correctly and vote for the residents? The residents have to take time out of their day and come here to voice their opposition to your obstructionist behavior. As a matter of fact, the behavior has been going on for 2 years. No matter what great ideas Dr. Greenberg, Councilwoman Walker, or Councilwoman Sohar come up with, they are berated, laughed at, disrespected, and shut out. Despicable. You have become part of the problem in Old Bridge instead of finding solutions, like these councilwomen. And shame on you, Mr. Green. You have lost your way. In my opinion, you, Lucio Panos, and Sam Thompson need to give some younger folks a chance to bring in fresh ideas and join together to move the people's business forward in a calm and respectful way. Anyone at home would like to personally meet me, you can call my home, 732-254-3627. I'll call you back. Let me repeat my number, 732-254-3627. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
John Murphy?
Excuse me. My name is John Murphy. I live at in Claridge Court in Old Bridge. I've been a resident of Old Bridge for 59 years. I went to, all my schooling was done here. I graduated from Madison Township High School. I have an associate's degree in environmental health engineering from Middlesex County College. And for the past 59 years, I have loved the town. It's been my favorite thing to go back to. I'm here all the time, and I just want to thank the friends that I have met here. I, too, am going to run for a town council in Ward 6. I'm also not a very good speaker, but if I read it off a piece of paper, it'll be worse, believe me. I worked for the Old Bridge water system for 40 years, 35 years of which I was superintendent. A lot of you know me because I coached basketball, football, wrestling and baseball for over 25 years to your children, and I guess now I'm speaking to the people that are 35 and 40 now. I feel it's time that we need a change. Years ago, Old Bridge was a very nice, fun place to live. I want to go out and experience that again. My opponent has been on the council for about 14 years now, and I feel it's a little too long because basically in the last 10 years, nothing has been done. She has moved on. She works now up in the state with the state offices and stuff. And I feel that the only way I'm going to change things is to do it myself. The biggest problem I have is the 3,000 homes, 3,000 apartments, low income, that were approved in Old Bridge. We were told last week or 2 weeks ago that there was no other way to do it. It had to be done. Well, that's wrong. It did not have to be done. 4 of the people voted no for those apartments. And that, Anita Greenberg, Debbie Walker, June Dungy, and Mary Sohor. I did not think there was going to be a chance that would ever be, because there was a 5th that was very much against those apartments. And I really didn't believe that they would ever be approved. But with little workings, they swung the vote, and it was approved, and I feel that's going to hurt the town. We already have high taxes. The schools are going to be overtaxed, overcrowded, and they're going to have a problem even getting out to the main roads. So what I'm saying, I want to run for council, and I would like everybody to support me. My name's John Murphy. I'm in Ward 6, and I'm running for council. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it? I will close the preliminary public comments portion. We'll go to council member comments. Who'd like to speak? Mr. Green.
Unfortunately, this has become a time period of attacks on individuals' quality, ability, his life, like mine, and I get all kinds of accusations. I could talk about the rec board meeting, which I have a copy of it. But anyway, I'll start with I'll call him Corrupt Tony. I opened an account many years ago. It's called a PAC, Political Action Committee. And the purpose of it was to raise funds in order to support individuals or issues that the township, which occurred in the township, like for instance, the time when there was a movement to replace the paid attorney with contractors, legal advice, and the township got together and fought it. So that's why the account was originated. I never was the chairman or signee. So as time went by, Tony was asked to be involved in the account. And he was on the account with my good buddy Joe Aragona, who unfortunately passed away. So I got a call from Dr. Greenberg. how about we put Jackie Barker on the account? So then it became Jackie Barker.
Excuse me, I never said that. So
Then it
please
became-
get your story
excuse me.
straight and don't integrate me in your
Mr. Green,
stories.
Mr. Green has the floor, and you can...
I don't think this is the place for
Interject
this.
my name when it's not
Dr.
true, so I
Greenberg,
will stop it.
you-
Thank you,
Dr.
President
Greenberg.
Cahill, for accepting my recognition.
It became...
Dr. Greenberg, you can have the floor when it becomes your turn. Thank you.
became Jackie Barker and Tony Pischetti. And I questioned them. I said, well, what's going on with the account? Because, you know, I started this many years ago and like to make sure the money is spent properly. And I was told by Tony Pischetti, corrupt Tony, that you can't have anything to do with the account because Anita Greenberg was the only one who raised money to put money in it. But the bottom line is, the account was used as a slush fund in order to avoid election problems, irregularities, sorry. And in other words, if you have a candidate who's running for election, he can only accept $300 from an individual who wants to work for the township or an entity of the township. But Tony Pischetti took a check for $7,200 in this account, and if anybody wants to look at it, it's Old Bridge Township Concerned Residents, in order to avoid election oversight. Took the money, and where was it spent? It was spent on $150 a week for him to work in campaign headquarters. It was spent for pizzas and lunches for employees or people who are working on the campaign. It was spent to put gas in people's cars. And this is what Tony did. And what happened was they were notified that this did violate election laws. So they had to scurry around and put the money back, give the money back to the individual who gave the $7,200. So how'd they do that? Well, they got money from different politicians. 1,000 here, 1,000 there, 3,000 here. A check was made out to Old Bridge Republican County Committee for $3,000. It was given to Anita Greenberg, who deposited...
Again, you are going to have a lawsuit saying I did something illegal. I never got a check for $3,000, and you better stop now, and if not, you're in a lot of trouble, Mr. Green.
Brian, I want to
Mr.
finish.
Green, can you finish up?
Mr. Green is
Dr.
telling
Greenberg,
lies, and I
Dr.
will
Greenberg, you'll
verify.
have every opportunity
I will have the floor.
to speak.
This
It
is
was
disgusting.
It was a $3,000 check.
And you're allowing him to
Dr.
go
Greenberg,
on. Ask the mayor
Dr. Greenberg,
if he wants
time out.
this conduct.
Time out.
Tell me the
Time out.
You're
You do not
allowing
have the
this
floor.
mayor-
You're wrong.
You-
It's disgusting.
You're wrong.
I have the floor.
would bang it if we
You
were
do
elected.
not have the floor.
I don't have the
You
floor,
should
but
know
I have
this
a right
by
to
now.
speak when a
You're
man
out
is
of
lying.
order.
Ask
You're
Senator
out of
Thompson
order.
how it came
You
down.
can have the time you like to speak. You are out of order again. Please refrain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
$3,000 check, which was a positive to Township of Old Bridge concerned residents, to make up the money to this contractor who wanted to do business with the town to make sure he didn't violate election rules. That's Tony Pischetti. I asked him about it the other day. He stopped by my house, he was campaigning. I said, what about this account, Tony? Oh, I gave it up a year ago. I said, no, you didn't. It was in March of this year. And he's saying to me, he wants new people. He wants to change the politics in town. Do you really want that? As far as COA, let me get on to COA. That was mandated by a judge. The history of COA is...
Ms. Pischetti, can you please refrain? Thank you.
The story with this is, it was mandated by the Supreme Court many years ago, and it was given to a state agency to oversee it. And the state agency, I asked questions about it, really came up with numbers which I don't understand how they did it. None of us understand it. But they came up with these numbers as far as every township in the state of New Jersey must provide affordable housing. We didn't want that. None of us wanted it. And by the way, none of us voted yes for it at any time, despite what you said, Tony.
Please no sidebars.
This was mandated by the Supreme Court. Governor Christie disbanded it I don't know if he knew the repercussions, but we couldn't get rid of it. So what happened was, it was turned over to the local judges. In our case, we went to Middlesex County judges. They're the ones who said, this is what you have to do. We had a representative from the judge come here and tell us, if you want to check it, you can check the October 14th YouTube council meetings, which you referred to, Tony. They specifically told us, if you don't accept this proposal, you're going to have 10,000 homes. And their answer was political posturing. I'll vote no because I'm going to look good. The fact of the matter is, that no could have cost us 10,000 units. But that's fine, right? That's all fine. The truth is, look at the YouTube where they made a presentation from attorneys, an expert in housing and planning, told us, if we don't accept this, you got 10,000 homes. We did the right thing for the township. None of us supported it, but we did the right thing to avoid getting crushed with 10,000 homes, Tony.
Anybody else want to speak?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg.
Done.
Yes, I would like to speak, and I think it is absolutely despicable, these accusations, these falsehoods, and grandstanding, bloviating, whatever you want to say. When someone here is here 17 years and they cannot stand on their record, it is pathetic. And I can only say that I have more faith in the residents of Old Bridge, of their intelligence, and their commitment to seek the truth. If you are insinuating, just like on Facebook, let me tell you, Facebook can be a tool for a positive thing. I do not Facebook, I never have, I never will, I don't Twitter. But Facebook also is used for cowards, to say things, to throw things out there that aren't true, and put it out there. And I will read you something, because Mr. Green insinuated I did something illegal. I have never done anything illegal in my life, but perhaps going above the speed limit. So the bottom line to say that is disgusting. And so when you say that, I will read this. He says he was notified of a fact with the election board. Let me tell you, I called the election board. There is no infractions against me. I handed my checkbook. I handed my statements. That is absolutely disgusting. You want to talk about how money is raised or elect reports? Let me tell you, I can name 5 people on this dais who have taken money from me, in-kind contributions, people in the room, and have never, ever reported it on their elect report. And you want to speak other than that? I'm not going to get. I'm being a veterinarian, I have a phrase, and I'd like everyone to hear about it. Don't get in the mud with the pigs, because the only one who's going to have fun is a pig. So with that said, I'll say one other thing. When you are here for 17 years and you exploit this town and you've caught this town money with a RICO case at the MUA with the Brunetti, and you take health benefits continuously, you're 70 years old, and you still take health benefits from this day. You had health benefits from your job in New York. So people want to know the truth. Let me tell you, you can throw things out as much as you want in an election. I want you to evaluate an election based on someone's commitment, dedication, honesty, fairness, integrity, and transparency, and letting people make choices for themselves and not feeling they are the holier than thou when I can tell you stories. But once again, I am not going to go down that road. Whenever I do anything, I do it on the basis of what's good for the residents. And I've never done anything illegal. And to put it on Facebook, a lie. Give me your citing, how you know these things. They're not true. And Mr. Rosencrantz, who also likes it and shares it, and he's from Bank of America and a manager, and knowing you're not supposed to use Facebook. And he knows firsthand, I cannot take a check unless it's made out to me. And yes, the donations are less than $300. If they don't, they have to report it, and you will see it on the person's elect report. So I hope from this point forward that we can be fair and honest and not have this rhetoric or this debate. But if you want to have it, I'll tell you where it's going to go, right into the courts. Thank you very much.
Anybody else want to be heard? Mrs. Walker. Mr. Biscotti, one more outburst, I'm going to have you removed.
Oh, God.
Please. Okay? Enough. Thank you. Mrs. Walker, you have the floor.
Yes, as far as the COA, I totally disagree with the COA. We keep hearing, oh, if we didn't agree, we were going to get 10,000 units. Well, you should have stood up and you should have fought for your town like South Brunswick did. That judge, Mr. Wolfson, he worked for the builders before he was a judge. He retired, and now he works for the same builders that he gave permission to build the housing. South Old Bridge is fighting for their town. And if you do the math, we weren't going to get stuck with 10,000. And your so-called experts that came here to the meeting, they've never even been to Old Bridge. Dr. Greenberg asked them. How would they even know anything about Old Bridge? They've never even been here. And you know, if you love your town, you have to stand up and fight for it. These 3,000 apartments are going to be a burden on our school system, our infrastructure. And it should never have happened. It's in an election time that all these lies could be thrown out. And I hope Dr. Greenberg hires an attorney to go after them. Also, I want to know about the minutes on October 14th for our special meeting. I don't recall us ever accepting them. Have they ever been before us?
You have to check, I guess, right? You know that off the
I've checked back. I can't find them.
I absolutely do, and I can answer for that,
Okay.
Councilwoman Walker. They have not been finalized.
Can you tell me why?
I can tell you why. Because of the enormous amount of work that came into our office, the special meetings that were being held in October, in addition to the regular combined meetings, I should say. It was just something that was put on the side. It will get done.
Okay, thank you.
And I can answer personally for that.
No, because I
am
looked through them, I
personally-
could not find them. I was just curious why other minutes have been approved that were done after.
It's just a workload.
Finished?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes, just to clear one thing up, I was involved with the COA thing also, and the balance was 684 affordable units in Old Bridge, not 3,000. It's 3,000 total units, all types of units, to be built by 2025, not 3,000 affordable units. So make that clear. Number two is Mrs. Shapiro. She did a fantastic job at that Country Woods, and I want to thank her too, because she enlightened me on a lot of things. And I will say, since I've been a councilman here 3 years and 5 months, in Ward 1, with the help of Mrs. Shapiro, we've managed to pave, it'll be 27 streets this year in Ward 1 alone. Myself and her work together on it, along with the Department of Public Works, and the program works really fine the way it's set up. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you.
The last one we heard. Mrs. Sohar?
Yes, first of all, I too am glad that we have moved forward with the ranking of the roads. And I just hope that we keep on this track and we can get this situation with Country Place put to bed, so to speak. It's been a long time in coming, and I really think that the residents deserve this, conclusion and a good resolution. So that being said, thank you, Nicole. I hope by next meeting we have some good news. Secondly, as far as COA is concerned, Mr. Mollis did mention about affordable units. The biggest problem I had with COA was the Alfieri project. That was originally supposed to be industrial. We were going to have a conference center. We were going to have a minimum of townhomes. We now are looking at 529 units down in an area that is so densely congested for traffic that was one of my major problems with this whole COA issue. So I just had to put that on the record. Thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard? Mrs. Panos?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say it was a lovely presentation tonight. This is a great town to live in with the Camp Robin, and I wanted to acknowledge those people. COA. Here's the other thing. Guess what? It's election time. Has anybody noticed? And everybody's coming up throwing mud and this and that. When it comes time for COA, the reason I voted, one of the reasons of many, is that that's down the road. Anything that comes within those realms of the COA decision that we agreed on has to go before boards. It has to go before a planning board, zoning, however they do it. It's not a done deal. We kept control. I'm not going to give up our right of control to some arbitrator or whatever that name of the person is, special something. a special master would decide how we're going to build this and everything like that. No, you know what? I'd rather keep it in our own yard and make our own decisions on if this development gives too much traffic or this one, that. So all this, the sky is falling, henny penny stuff about the COA, don't go for it. We have control over that, and that's a very, very important piece, control. The problem is some people want control and they don't have it.
Anybody else want to be heard that hasn't spoken?
Sure, I haven't spoken,
Mr.
since my name
Rosencrantz.
was mentioned tonight by Dr. Greenberg. We all heard it. Most of what was said about COA, is a fact, okay? The 529 apartments down in the Lawrence Harbor section was part of the negotiated deal, okay? You can't take that part out of the deal and have a successful settlement. And as so many people have said, the attorneys, the mayor, the special master, even the judge who relayed information through them to the council, that if we did not approve a negotiated settlement and zone appropriately for the potential of affordable housing, we could get 10,000 units. So if you take 10,000 and go to court and lose, or take a negotiated settlement with 3,000. It sounds logical to me. You take 3,000, leaving the emotions and the emotionally charged counsel out of it, but just in your own emotions and logic. You just take that and look at it and make your own decision. You want to fight for it, you go to court, you spend money, you could lose and get 10,000 units. Or you take what a bird in the hand is worth, two in the bush. Thank you.
Mrs. Dungy, you're the only one who hasn't spoken yet. Would you like to speak before I close? You good? Okay. I'm going to just close the council comments, couple of comments. So my name was mentioned during the whole TNR discussion, and Mr. Piscetti claimed I voted no. I asked him to check the record. I actually voted yes for TNR. There was considerable discussion around that particular item. There was negotiation that took place. There was a back and forth. So, at the end of the day, I did vote for TNR. I want that on the record. I'm not going to relitigate COA, although this has been a political hot button for many people in the room and many people in the audience. At the end of the day, it was 10,000 units versus 3,000 units. The math is simple. You can't, and oh, by the way, somebody mentioned South Brunswick. Just because South Brunswick challenged the ruling doesn't mean that they won, okay? Right now, they actually got the higher of the two numbers they were debating. So I'm not going to relitigate that. But this is silly season. We got a lot going on, and we got a lot to cover in the meeting. So I'm going to close the council member comments. Do we have a report of the township clerk?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Do we have a report of the township attorney?
Not at this time.
Administrative report, Mr. Mayor.
I have one at this time, Council President.
Thank you.
Item number 1, New Jersey Department of Environmental
Hold on a
Protection.
second. Can we please have quiet on the council again? Every meeting, we have sidebars. Can we please stop?
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
It's okay. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, NJDEP Blue Acres Program update. The NJDEP Superstorm Sandy, I can't believe we're still saying Superstorm. Sandy Blue Acres team began extending buyout offers to homeowners at Old Bridge in 2015. A total of 29 buyout offers have been extended. 26 out of the 29 offers have been accepted. Hard copies of the May 15, 2017 NJDEP Old Bridge buyout status summary reports have been forwarded to the clerk's office for distributions to council. I'd just like to add to that a number of demolitions have taken place in that area, so we're making some progress over there. Item number 2, 2017 street sweeping program. The Department of Public Works is begin street sweeping activities on or starting around April 10th to October 30th. We do this. Each ward will have a street sweeping 5 different times during this period. For additional information, residents should contact the Department of Public Works, 732-721-5600 at extension 6140, or visit the Township website. Very important, the Westminster Boulevard and commuter parking lots improvements on or about Wednesday, May 24th, weather permitting. The Township's Westminster commuter parking lot will be closed for paving operations for approximately 5 days. Old Bridge residents with valid
2017 parking permit stickers will be permitted to park temporarily in the Pathmark parking lot for no charge. While the commuter lot is closed, commuter vehicles will be towed if they're parked elsewhere. If anyone needs information on that, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or again, visit the Township website for additional up-to-date information. That's very important for our commuters when that parking lot is finally getting paved. Unfortunately, it's going to take it out of service for 5 days. Another important issue, Texas Road and Route 527 intersection improvements, also known as Englishtown Road. Woodhaven Village contractors will improve the intersection of Texas Road and County Road 527 or Englishtown Road on or about May 24th, 2017. Improvements to the intersection of Texas Road and 527 will require closure of 527 and alternating traffic on Texas Road from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for, again, approximately 5 business days. The contractor will not be permitted to work on weekends and holidays. A detour map has been posted on our website, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Texas Road and Englishtown Road will be open at all other times during the weekday event and during the weekday events at Raceway Park. In addition, 527 will be open to emergency vehicles as well as the local residents during construction. So it's going to be a little inconvenience down there, but it'll pay off. As I said before, 2016 Memorial Day ceremony. On Friday the 26th, I will be holding a Memorial Day wreath laying ceremony here at the Senior Center. The ceremony is scheduled to begin at 10:30 a.m. If anyone needs additional information, please contact my office. The Memorial Day Parade will be on the 29th. Also, the municipal offices will be closed in observance of Memorial Day. And also on that day, we'll be holding our annual Memorial Day Parade. The event will begin at 9 a.m. For additional information at this event, residents should contact the Department of Parks and Recreation, 732-721-5600 at 4999, or again, visit the Township website. I encourage all residents to come and line that parade route. The Clean Team on June 3rd, myself and volunteers from the Old Bridge Soccer Hornets, U17 team, Madison Park PTA, Boy Scout Troop 36, Old Bridge High School varsity basketball, Old Bridge Lightning 10U baseball team will be cleaning litter on Brunswick Avenue, Sandfield Avenue, Birch Street, Spring Valley Road, Cheesequake Road. If anyone needs additional information, the residents should contact the Clean Communities Coordinator, 732-721-5600, 6107. Just to add that any council in your wards, if you see any streets that you think need to be cleaned up, please give us those streets so we can assign a team to that. Middlesex County Pancreatic Cancer Walk on June 10, 2017. The County of Middlesex Board of Chosen Freeholders, the Chronic Disease Coalition of Middlesex and Union Counties, and the Edison Municipal Alliance will be sponsoring a Pancreatic Cancer Walk, I don't know if that's right, 2017 at Roosevelt Park in Edison. All proceeds will go to benefit the pancreatic cancer research at Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. For additional information about this event, citizens should visit. It's a long email. I'll just say the letters. How about just call my office if you want additional information on that one. Or you can contact Pat Kukulski at 732-745-3131. The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, Summer Food Service Program, the Middlesex County Food Organization and Outreach Distribution Services, the Middlesex County Food Bank, and the network of more than 100 food pantries, soup kitchens, and social service agencies will once again be participating in the USDA Summer Food Service Program, which ensures that low-income children continue to receive nutritious meals when school is not in session. For additional information, residents should contact the USDA Summer Food Service Program at 609-292-4498 or visit the USDA Food and Nutrition website at fns.usda.gov. Item number 11, the Old Bridge Affordable Housing Report for 2017. Township Consultant CGP&H manages our affordable housing portfolio. There are 47 ownership units in Old Bridge Township Affordable Housing Portfolio. Old Bridge has a total of 3,524 applicants on a waiting list for affordable housing. CPG&H does outreach by mailing social media each month. Anyone interested in Township Affordable Housing Program should contact Megan York at 609-664-2769 or email megan@cgph.net. PSE&G gas infrastructure update. PSE&G is in the process of completing the gas infrastructure updates within Old Bridge Township, Madison Park, Southwood, and South Old Bridge communities. PSE&G contractors will be mobilizing to begin the pavement restoration activities on or about June 19th, when Township Public Schools are closed for summer recess. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, or visit our website for a complete list of roadways affected and up-to-date information on PSE&G start date and progress. There's going to be a lot of work going on in those streets that were dug up. They're all going to... Old Bridge Police Department, OBPD, Special Needs Emergency Information Form, which is very important. Police Department offers a Special Needs Emergency Information Registration. The form for individuals or families with special needs is available upon request. Any information provided to the OBPD will be kept strictly confidential. For additional information, residents should contact the OBPD Detective Bureau at 732-721-5600, extension 3280, or email mjeffries@oldbridge.com. Council, that concludes the administration report. If anyone has any questions on information provided or any other questions, I will try to answer them.
Questions from council on the report? Mrs. Sohar.
I just have a comment. I'm pleased to see that our commuter parking lots are being addressed. It's been a long time in coming, and I think that the people that use them are going to be very pleased.
Any other comments from council?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Mr. Miles.
As far as the cleanup goes also, I spoke to the mayor today. The Lawrence Harbor beachfront is in the process of being cleaned up by the county, as it is every year around this time for Memorial Day. It's really looking good, and yeah, that's about it. It will be done for the events. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mrs. Dungy.
Yes, I agree with Ms. Soho. I'm very happy that the parking lot at Westminster Boulevard is being repaired. Thank you very much.
Long overdue.
Thank you. Any other comments on the administrative report? Motion to accept the administration report, please.
Make a motion, sir.
Mr. Miles moved it. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sohar?
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz, sorry. Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Cahill?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. Pardon me. Move on to the consent agenda. Tonight we have items C1 through C10. Can I first get a motion introduced, please?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Rosencrantz. Can I have a second? Second by Mr. Mollis. Any members from the public want to be heard before we do council separations on items C1 through C10? Close the public portion. Any council separations? Dr. Greenberg.
C10, please.
C10. Any other separations on council?
E1.
C1, Mrs. Panos. Any other separations? None? Okay. Can I get a motion for the balance, which should be C2 through 9?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Rosencrantz.
I'll second it,
Second by
sir.
Mr. Mollis. Roll call on the balance, 2 through 9.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg? Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Cahill? 9
Yes.
yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Panos, C1?
I guess I just am glad that this is happening. It sort of comes full circle. I'm honored to have Mayor Henry authorized to sign that agreement for Green Acres. Mrs. Miller, do you remember us 30 years ago coming down here fighting to save the wetlands and everything else? And over the years, on Cottrell, they wanted to develop that, and there was mayors coming, whatever plans they had. Isn't it full circle that this mayor comes 30 years later and gets to sign a Green Acres for that place?
She was there.
You can smack him on the way out, Mrs. Miller.
I hate him for you, Mrs.
This is your grandmother?
Yes, I just wanted Mrs. Miller and
Any other comments on C1? Can I get a motion on C1, please?
Wait,
Move it.
one comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Mrs.
I
Saul?
just also want to comment, my late husband Roman was very much in favor of acquiring that property for open space and to keep it what it is. And I have to tell you, this has been a long time in coming, as Mrs. Panos said, but there were a lot of people who worked very hard to make this come to fruition. And I'm so happy that the Cottrell Farm will be there long after we're gone. So thank you, everyone.
I have a motion for Mrs. Panos. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Green. Roll call, please, on C1.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg? Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Cahill, 9
Yes. Thank you. Dr. Greenberg, C10.
Yes, just clarification on this. If someone could give me an explanation about this.
Camacho?
Council adopted an ordinance to deal with the abandoned properties in the town. The part of the ordinance is the lengthy process to make sure that we are legally compliant. And this is about our fourth attempt to find an attorney who can carry us from the beginning to the end of the process, where you need help for the code enforcement, creating the list, making sure that a list, taking all the necessary actions in compliance, and ultimately assigning a lien and foreclosing, if necessary, the property so that, we can abate the problem. So this is the attorney hire now. With the help of that, construction office will continue, and the zoning will continue the process of dealing with abandoned properties.
Thank you. Hopefully, it is much in need, and I support it without a doubt, especially when you see properties that have been abandoned for a long time, and just, it's a stagnant situation, and we have to be more proactive with it, so hopefully this will do it. And we also know that there's properties in town that are really dangerous, and they're bringing down a neighborhood. If you have a homeowner that's taking care of their property and they have a home next door to it that's been abandoned and the roof's caving in and it's a dangerous situation. So hopefully with this firm, we'll be able to move forward, identify those problems, those properties, and correct them. Thank you.
And the key is that we do it legally. That's what
that's
they're going to follow. We don't want to knock somebody's house down.
Well, that's it.
So that's why bringing the attorneys on, to make sure we follow all the process and the steps that were in the ordinance that you adopted. So there's a process that has to go through, and we have to make sure each one, everything is covered.
Any other comments on C10? Mrs. Sohar?
Yes, I'd like to thank the administration for taking all the time to vet this out properly. One thing can be said for this administration: when they do things, it's done correctly, methodically, and legally. So thank you very much.
Any other comments on C10? No. I need a motion on C10, please. Moved by Mrs. Sohar. Can I have a second? Second by Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. I got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor? Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Cahill?
Yes.
9 yes.
That closes the consent agenda. Moving on to ordinances, this is discussion ordinance, DO1, acceptance of right-of-way dedication to be granted to the Township of Old Bridge for purposes of future road widening along frontage of 295 Pleasant Valley Road, block 19,000, lot 28.12. Nicole, anybody from the public want to be heard on this item? Close the public portion. Go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you, Council President. This is for a piece of property along Pleasant Valley Road that was in front of our zoning board for an application for a use variance. As part of the application, one of the conditions of approval was that they dedicate then a piece of their frontage to Old Bridge Township for any road widening. That dedication then mimics our master plan and our circulation element for the right-of-way width along that frontage. This is in case any future widening or any roadway improvements that we don't have to buy this piece in front of their property to make our right-of-way whole at that location.
Thank you. Questions for Nicole on this? Mr. Green?
This is for the hotel that's being proposed.
No, the hotel is on Spring Valley Road. This is Pleasant Valley.
Okay, so what's going on in Pleasant Valley? Anything?
Nothing. They were just in front of every single application that comes in front of our zoning and planning board. Our typical method is to have them do a dedication to make their right-of-way match or mimic our master plan, our circulation element.
Does this have anything to do with the developer who wants to build housing there?
No,
Apartments?
does not. This is just one residential home, was in for a use variance, and that was it. Typically, Councilman Green, you've seen me probably in the last year come to you multiple times. I think there was one on Spring Valley Road for the hotel. There was one on Ticetown Road. What we're doing is we're trying to document it so that going forward we have some sort of catalyst to update our tax maps and for record purposes. So years down the road, should another engineer want to see what property we do have for any future road widening, roadway improvements, that there's some sort of mechanism for trying to find it or find that dedication. And that's our township attorneys have brought that to our attention, and we've tried to follow that step in trying to document them going forward.
I just want to get a picture of exactly where this is. Is this a private,
Yeah, I'll show you, Rich.
Private home.
privately owned?
Yep.
My computer's not working, so.
They own it. There's nothing there. It's closer to the
Okay, all right.
You done, Mr. Green?
Yeah, I'm done. One other thing, I asked you for the ordinances which pertain to turning over or accepting developments, roads, and so forth. About a week ago, I haven't gotten it yet.
Yes. I think we have one for detention basins. I don't know if we have one for roads themselves. I remember in our discussion, I had mentioned that Mark Roselli had, I believe he had stated state regulations to me, and I was going to get that from him. However, he has been out on some family issues.
I know the process has been, it's submitted and reviewed by the attorney as well as the engineering department. So I figured
Yes.
there was a process that you knew exactly what you had to do to approve taking over the roads of a community.
Yes, engineering-wise, 100%.
Okay, so-
Legally, it would be the legal department.
I like whatever ordinance there is or anything that pertains to that so that I know in the future.
I believe our township attorney,
We've been
Mark
asked to
Roselli, will
change,
be in.
we've been asked to pass an ordinance. I'd like to know what we have now. Okay?
do.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on 295 Pleasant Valley Road?
I just have a curiosity
Sounds-
question. What was the usage they went before the board for?
It was a long time ago because what happens is when an application goes in front of our planning and zoning board, there's a little bit of lag time from the time that they're approved to the time that their resolution compliance is finished. So from what I remember and in looking at the location, I think it was that they wanted to create a two-family home. I think the applicant's son lives on the first floor, or he was accepting rent, wanted to make it legal, from what I remember, but I can get you that answer, Councilman.
Right, and this is just, if you look on the virtual city, it's just a house, one thing. I'm okay with this.
A house, I think there was like a chicken coops or
In the
something
back.
along the side, red ones.
Yes, okay.
Any other discussion on 295 Pleasant Valley Road? What are you looking for us to do tonight? Move it to first reading, or?
If we don't feel comfortable this meeting, we could certainly do it for the next.
I'll make a motion, move it to first reading. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Miles. Roll call on moving it to first reading.
Ms. Dungy?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
No.
Mr. Mollis?
Yes.
Mrs. Panos?
Yes.
Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
And President Cahill?
Yes.
A yes, one no.
Moving on to public comments on any subject matter. Who'd like to speak?
Is it on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Terry Barron, and I'm at 5A Indiana Court, and I live in Cheesequake Village. And I just wanted to remind the board, a lot of people are on the board that weren't on the board with the Alfieri situation. And myself and the people of my village were here every time there was a meeting about this, and we fought very hard to not have El Fury. Not because we didn't want the property developed, but because they would not make any concessions on the road work. They were going to build all of these structures, all of these homes, all of these stores, and they were not going to add anything to the streets. There was no way that we, in that area, which is right now so overcrowded that between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning and 4 and 5 at night, you can't even get on Morristown Avenue. Now, they're building 500 houses there, and those people are going to be trying to get in and out of the parkway. I have nothing against the 500 houses. I would just like to see that the board make some kind of concession in that roadway. We even tried to get the turnpike to put a special exit out of that property so that the people could get right on to the parkway without even hitting those roads, which would make a big difference, or open up the bridge. Now, they just repaired that bridge last year. At that time, they could have widened that bridge. It's like a country bridge. The people in Lawrence Harbor are going to have the traffic too. So I realize it's a done deal and the houses are going in, but I think that the town should fight to get some kind of a opening or roadway, some way of diverting traffic there. That's
Thank
my
you.
comment.
Terry, I'll just,
Mr. Mayor.
Terry, I just want, part of the settlement was that the developer, Alfieri, has to do those road improvements. So, I know, and that was part of the negotiated settlement. Even though that these massive road improvements might not be required for 500, apartments or whatever it's going to be back there, they were required for the commercial, the big towers that he was going to build, the 87 single-family homes. He had committed to widening the bridge, widening Lawrence Harbor Parkway, improvement at both entrances to the parkway, both north and southbound. They were now carried over as part of this settlement. So those road improvements have to take place.
This new
Yes.
settlement?
Yes.
Okay, thank
They are
you.
going to take place.
Thank you.
The bridge, yes.
Anybody else from the public want to be heard? Yes, please.
Here we go.
Hi, guys. Lisa Lent Miller. I'm the lesser-liked Mrs. Miller. Terrell Road. I have just a couple of questions. Over the past 3 years at the animal shelter, there's been Captain Carrillo, Captain Doherty, Captain Mandola, and within the past 2 weeks, Lieutenant Scott Gumprech, I'm probably butchering his name, sorry, has showed up now as the new liaison between Miss Chen and Captain Mandola for all the volunteers and the employees. So I would like to know how much he's getting paid for these additional duties, if this was listed in the budget, what animal experience he has, because all three names I've mentioned have zero animal background. I would also like to know, where are we at with the TNR? I've spent over a year coming to every meeting trying to campaign. Everyone's going to take a pat on the back for it because it's election year, but I would like to know, where are we at with it? Has it been signed? Has it been processed? Are we in the start of it? Have we formed a committee? Have we started classes? Most of the public doesn't even know this exists yet. And I would also like to know, where are we at with the board that oversees the animal shelter? Because again, that was approved, that was spoken about, and here we are months later, and I believe you guys met once, not including anyone from the public, and have gotten nowhere with it. So since it's an election year, can we get some things done? Can we get the board going? Can we get the TNR processed? And can we start hiring people with an animal background to oversee the animal shelter? That's it.
Anybody want to take a shot at that, or, nope? The attorney says no.
No, I mean, the police run the shelter, they manage it, and they pick the people that, the chief picks the people that he thinks are most qualified. I know it was a captain. As you know, we only have 2 captains, so he might have felt it was in the best interest of the shelter to assign a lieutenant. I've spoken to the chief about the TNVR program. We should be rolling out something within the next few weeks. he was given that charge by my office. And I don't, we're moving forward.
Anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Oh, it's on, but it's low. Well, I have a loud voice. Everyone hears me anyway. Good evening, everyone. Richard Pucciarelli, 20 Knoll Court, and I'm not running for office. I see tonight you have on the discussion ordinance, tonight D1 and D2. I'm just going to go over just a couple of things on it. D1, OTAPAN did adopt that ordinance. I checked online, they adopted the ordinance, so just so everyone knows that the ordinance referenced in that article was adopted by OTAPAN. If anyone wants some information or has a curiosity about this issue, I suggest going onto Google and just Google controlling bamboo growth in Google, and you can read all about it. Bamboo growth, if you plant it outside, you need a trench around it, at least 30 inches down, and twice a year you have to dig up the trench and cut the rhizomes out, because the bamboo will go under the trench and continue to spread. So I just want to point that out to everyone, those little facts, while you start to discuss it. I'm glad to see D2 is on the agenda, and we'll get that cleared up for the park and ride, the confusion for the park and ride. And the last thing I wanted to mention also was I was at the Old Bridge History Day this past weekend on Sunday. We were represented, and I met the freeholders. I want to let the council know and everyone at home know that our museum is thought of very highly by the county, and we have a lot of goodwill there. And I was approached by freeholders as well who complimented us. I spoke to other museums as well. I want everyone in the town to know we're very special. We are actually open 3 days a week. Most museums in the county are not even open. They're open 1 day a month. We're open 3 days a week. So we have access. Actually, today there was a school tour today from, I believe the middle school was there today. I think they had 75 kids there today. So I just want everyone to know that we are thought of very highly, the Thomas Warren Museum, and I invite everyone to come down during the days. We are open on Saturday, Sunday, and Friday, and you might actually come in on a Friday and get to speak to Ann Miller in person. Thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard from the public? Yes, sir.
Do you need my name and address for the record?
Nope.
All right, I stand by my comments, Mr. Cahill. Everyone voted yes for the TNR when the public got involved. I concede that. I do not deny the fact, Mr. Green, that while you, as a sitting councilman, got me involved with the concerned residents of Old Bridge PAC as the treasurer under your supervision and direction, which I now know is illegal for you as an elected official. That PAC, as you know, is illegal for an elected official to be directing it. You have implicated yourself, and it's now on public record. I have done everything legal and above board as per election law. All the reports were filed, and there are public records for anyone to view, search, and inspect. Totally above board. You, Mr. Green, have lied. You have impugned Dr. Greenberg's and my character.
Mr. Green, please.
You should be ashamed. All to hold on to your throne. Your behaviors make me think there should be an officer to take a breathalyzer test before council takes their seats on this dais.
Mr. Piscotty, that's over the line, please.
Well, let's introduce an ordinance to that effect. Blow into the tube and prove your sobriety before you take your seat.
Tony. Mr. Piscotty, that's over the line. Mr. Green, stop, please. Enough, please.
You don't like that ordinance?
You're attacking somebody like.
No, I'm saying for everybody.
Please move on.
I'm not just saying for
just
Mr.
please-
Green. I'm
all right,
saying,
Mr. Green,
I'm
please.
saying for everyone.
Fine, let's just move on, please. Thank you.
Well, that was my point. You know, an ordinance for everybody. I'm not saying Mr. Green. I'm saying everybody. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else want to be heard from the public? I'll close the public portion. We'll go into the discussion ordinance. Mrs. Walker, D1.
Yes.
Not discussion ordinance, I'm sorry,
here,
discussion.
Here.
Excuse me.
Richard, who just came up to speak, he's the one who sent me an email about the planting of the bamboo. And I had the clerk's office, I know it's a little late, I had the clerk's office send all the council people, because I didn't know if it was going to be on the agenda or not, copies of an ordinance from Old Tappan that we could look at. And I would just ask that you would go home and research bamboo and find out how hard it is to eradicate once it's in, and how it's so invasive, such an invasive species. I know we can't vote on anything tonight, but it's hope something that we would look into. Because in Mr. Knoll Court, they have planted bamboo. It is a very small development over there, and they're having a problem with it. And it's very, very hard to get rid of once it's there. So it's impossible. So I would just hope that we could consider, if everybody goes home and looks at this, maybe next meeting, we could discuss it again. And I'd just like to hear how everybody feels about the bamboo. If you had a chance to look at it tonight while you were sitting here.
Anybody else want to discuss D1, the bamboo?
Just explain what the ordinance is going to do.
Mrs. Walker, do you want to?
Yes, I have a copy. I know you don't have time to read it, but when you go home, you read it. Well, we'd have to make an ordinance. I just have a sample of an ordinance from Old Tappan. What it would do is, it would grandfather in existing bamboo, but it would prohibit the planting of bamboo.
On personal property?
Yes, because what happens is, it's so invasive, if your neighbor plants bamboo, it'll come onto your property and you will not be able to get rid of it.
Are you proposing somebody cannot plant something on their own personal property?
I'm proposing that you want to look at the ordinance. I didn't tell you how to vote for it.
No, I'm, to Mr. Green's point, I'm trying to understand what you're proposing. So you're I'm
Yes,
sorry,
it has to stay
this is
in.
the council, this is
yes.
council.
Yes, if you read the literature that I had the clerk give to all of you, it has to stay contained in pots, so the roots cannot go onto other people's property.
Anybody else want to discuss D1? Okay.
I think that the root of the ordinance is to have the bamboo maintained in pots, so they can't spread to, which is what Mr. Pucciarelli mentioned, spread to other properties. And so I just want to see the ordinance, exactly what it means.
So Mrs. Walker, what are you proposing we do next?
Well, Mr. Pagilli just asked me if I would put it up to the council for discussion, so I told him I would.
Okay.
So I gave everybody a handout. You can read it, take it home. Tonight, I'm not asking you to do anything except read it, and then
Get a
see what you
handout.
want to do.
Oh, it's in the
Elvis.
mailbox.
All right, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's too short a notice for you to look at tonight and do anything, but it's just something he asked me if I would bring it up, and I said I would.
Okay. Dr. Greenberg, do you want to talk about the bamboo?
I just have a question about it. One, I'd be curious if we've had any concerns where anyone in town has planted bamboo and then it became invasive. There's many different species of bamboo. I will take the time before the next meeting to speak to some people that are experts and have worked with the bamboo. I know that it can take over other healthy trees and other healthy plantings and destroy them. And some of them can grow 30 feet high. And so I just want to know if it is a problem in town. Also, I want to get some expert testimony about whether it's different species, all of it, and then find out, the negative side of allowing bamboo to be planted. Thank you.
Mrs. Panos, you wanted to speak?
Yes, actually, I did call Rutgers today, and they'll be sending me some information on bamboo, because there are many species. Some people that I spoke to about this already, it said, hey, listen, now the government's going to tell me what I can and can't plant. That's another slippery slope. So I will wait till I get the pamphlets and have someone from Rutgers, I'll be speaking to them. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I would just like to add one thing. I would never impose anything on a person on their property but we have in our town, we tell people they can't cut down their own trees on their own property. So you have to look at everything and evaluate things from both sides. So there are ordinances that do restrict things, and so we have, this is the first time that I'm seeing it. I'm just saying that I want to investigate it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just say more work has to be put into it, and that's why I said, or if there was any problems about it. But no one's imposing anything on anyone at this time. It's really just a fact-finding situation, from what I understand.
And I was just trying to understand what the proposal was. I wasn't inferring anything.
No, it's just a fact finding, that's all.
Could we just kind of go around once, please, Mrs. Soha?
Thank you. I know I have a development in my ward that has had an issue with bamboo. Someone next door to the development planted it, and now it's really out of control. So again, let's just look into it and see what it's all about, and if there's anything we can do to help with it, not necessarily, as you say, impose something on someone, but let's just look at it first and get the information.
Okay. Anybody else about the bamboo? Okay. Mrs. Walker, you have D2, Old Bridge commuter parking lots.
Yes. Last meeting, we had discussed about the possibility of allowing Old Bridge residents to park on the weekends for free in the park and rides. I understand that we would probably have to have some kind of a sticker in the window saying they were Old Bridge residents, because we wouldn't want people from out of town taking advantage of it. Because you might have people that don't commute into New York on a regular basis, but once in a while they want to go with their family into the city, and I think it would be a nice thing to do for the town. Anybody have any
Anybody
comments?
else?
I think the discussion was on weekends.
That's what I said,
I
weekends.
just want to clarify that.
Yes, weekends.
For commuters to be able to park on weekends for free. So how do we monitor that? That's another story, but I understand it, but I just wanted to clarify it. She's talking about weekends. The Councilwoman Walker is talking about weekends.
Yeah. It could just be anyone in Old Bridge, maybe somebody that doesn't commute to New York, but wants to just go with their family on the weekend.
I don't know how you administer something like that, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I guess the point is, if you're a commuter, you have a sticker, so you know who the Old Bridge residents are. Anybody then could park on the weekends. It wouldn't necessarily have to be from Old Bridge. So I think we just have to think it through a little bit, and if we want to do something like that, to figure out who are our residents and who might be driving from Freehold or points more south, just to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I thought maybe we can come up with a special sticker like Old Bridge resident that you could get. Maybe you didn't have to pay $5 for it for the year or whatever for the cost of the sticker. We could go, well, we have a parking and transportation committee right here. Maybe we should give them that job and let them look into it and come back to us with ideas.
Dr. Greenberg?
I think it is wise, when you look at surrounding towns, sometimes not to have a myopic view and see how neighboring towns do it. I know in Matawan, I don't live in Matawan, but I've parked there, and I've never had a problem on the weekend. So sometimes getting information from surrounding towns that have commuter parking too, you may be able to resolve this problem, or maybe we're thinking that it's more of a problem than it is. And so I think it's a good idea to look at it. I don't feel there should be a cost on the weekends, and people should be able to use the parking lots that are available. Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about the commuter parking lots?
Can I just say that we do have the two members of the Park and Transportation. Why don't we just ask them to please go over it, and maybe they could check things out for us, and they could come back to us with a presentation.
Gentlemen, is that agreeable? Great. Okay, council member comments before we adjourn. Who'd like to speak? Mr. Rosencrantz.
I just want to say Again, to Pat Green, thank you. We thought the last time you were in the audience and taking minutes,
You're not leaving,
that it
right?
was
You're
the
just gonna
last
keep on
time,
showing up.
but tonight is the last time, so we will truly miss you. Thank you for all your service to Old Bridge.
You're welcome, thank you.
Anybody else? Mrs. Panos?
Pat, I'm glad you're here tonight, and you're in the clerk seat. You're going out on top, babe. Yeah, I like that. But again, here it is. I just want to go over. There seems to be a lot of campaigning here tonight, negative campaigning. In the past couple of weeks, I've been accused, and I have texts from Mr. Pischetti that he was going to call the police. I'm stealing his sign. My supporters been stealing his sign. I actually stop accusing me, stop threatening me, and stop harassing me with your texts. Otherwise, I'm going to make a complaint about you, okay? And then whatever my opponent did, I've been on this council for 15 years. I'm going to do my spiel now. My heart, I might shoot from the hip, but it comes straight from my heart. I've been a graduate of the police academy. I worked to stabilize taxes. I was on the environmental commission, the youth guidance. I was a member of CERT, the ladies auxiliary of the fire department. I'm a religious education teacher for 25 years, still volunteering to this day. You know what? If anybody wants to sling mud, come right up and do it, because there is nothing. I have never sold out. I have never taken dinners, trips, or anything from anybody. I'm just here to serve the people. And if I ever forget that spot, then I don't deserve to be here.
Mr. Mollis, you had your hand up?
Yes, Mrs. Barron, Terry, how are you? I'd just like to say that nothing's finalized on that Alfieri project. Actually, there's nothing finalized on any project that was included in the COA. There's 5 projects. They all have to still go in front of planning. And I've been a lifelong resident of Lawrence Harbor, Cliffwood Beach area. I do sit on the planning board. It has to come in front of the planning board. As sure as I'm sitting here in front of you, there will be a very, very tough discussion on traffic and safety in that area if I'm sitting on the board or still on this board when it does happen. You know, I was accused the last time I ran. Actually, it's being used as a political thing right now. Somebody's saying that Mollis passed 529 affordable housing units in Lawrence Harbor. Well, Mollis sat on the COA board, but it was not 529 affordable units, okay? And it's still, like I say, nothing's definite yet. So that's where that stands. And that's about it. I just wish that would stop too, because I got several phone calls. People says, "What's the matter with you?" You know, but it's like deja vu. The last time I ran too, and I wish I kept the flyers that were going around, I was accused of putting 500 units in that same place. Okay, there's been many plants there in the last 35 years, 40 years. It started out, it was a grand thing, and it keeps dropping and dropping because nobody's really interested in that property or in that area. So keep your fingers crossed and nothing will happen. So have a good night.
I'll go with Mr. Green.
This definitely is the silly season. I mean, I've been attacked no matter where I go. I go to a rec board, and I'm attacked by, actually, I think it was a setup, but anyway. One thing, I did not approve the reevaluation for the township or any towns. I wasn't on the board. Number 2, I do not take health benefits from the city of New York. As a matter of fact, when you retire from the city of New York, when you're 65 years old, you go to Medicare, and I don't have Medicare. I'm being accused, the whole truth is being distorted, taking benefits from here, from there, from everywhere. No, it's not true at all. So I just want to get that point straight. And I want the public to get out there and vote for who they felt was doing the right job for themselves for the 17 years. They call me up, I answer the phone, I answer their emails, and things get done. And I don't have to read a script when I'm here on the council. I speak for myself, and I speak for the residents of Old Bridge. Thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard? Mrs. Sohar.
Just in reference to the museum that Richard spoke about, how well we're looked upon at the county, that's all to do with the volunteers at that Thomas Warren Museum. They are so dedicated, and if it wasn't for them and all the time they spent there, the museum wouldn't be open and would not have that reputation. So I just want to thank all those volunteers at the museum. Thank you all. That's a really big job.
Mrs. Dungy, you had your hand up?
Yes. I just want to say that I have devoted this last year serving my people in my ward, and I will continue to do that. Thank you.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes, I just want to clear up some miscommunication about the Alfieri property. Just so you know, Mrs. Barron, that was originally supposed to be a hotel conference center and 83 single-family homes. They changed the zoning to allow 529 apartments there. We keep hearing, well, it might not be built. Well, guess what? It might be built. I don't care how much infrastructure is done to the roads over there. It's not going to be able to absorb 529 apartments because now on Cliffwood Beach Avenue there, they're putting in another 400 apartments. They should never have changed the zoning. And I'm very upset because the Bridgepoint Homeowners Association was lied to. They were told by some members of the council sitting here tonight that they had to change the zoning, they had to sign an agreement, or else the judge was going to come in and give them more apartments, and that's not true. The town fought and paid $65,000 in attorney fees to keep it the way it was. It would have been a good rateable, clean rateable for the town. Hotel, conference center, 83 single-family homes. Now it's going to be a strain on us, the taxes for the school system, and the police and the fire. No studies were done. So I don't want to hear it's silly season. We've been fighting with this since last August. We've been against it. I am so against this Alfieri property being changed. I'm very, very upset by this, and I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that it's a silly season. No, this is about our residents, and I have a few other issues too. I keep having repeated complaints over and over and over about the code department. I want to know, is anything ever being done to look into the problems about the permits, the process? And also, as far as the animal shelter, during the budget hearings, we were told that the animal shelter hours were going to be changed so that people could adopt. Is that happening?
We said no at the budget meeting.
No, well,
We did not want to extend the
I'm sorry, I
hours.
didn't mean the budget. I meant we had the private meeting that we had with Dr. Greenberg, and we were told that.
Our recommendation not to extend the hours. We're open more than's required by the state law. We're open 7 days a week. And if someone can't find 1 hour within 7 days to come and adopt an animal, we question what kind of animal owner they would be. And if someone were to call me and say they're not available, we would make arrangements. I promise you that. We would make arrangements. If someone calls and says they can't make it those 7 days during those hours that we're open, and they're serious about adopting an animal, we will accommodate that resident.
Well, could we make like flex hours maybe? Like flex time?
We have to comply with the contract. We have to negotiate that. We just can't implement flex hours because the ACOs are members of the Teamsters Union.
But the ACOs are there, all, just that it's open to the public, those hours. But not, when it's not open, there's still people working there,
Oh, I know
taking care
that.
of the animals, and so there are people there.
And will we have another meeting of the committee?
I will talk to the chief, yes.
Okay,
about
thank you.
And what was the other question? The building department?
That committee stuff.
Hold on.
Building department, Pat Reardon has made, I think, 2 or 3 presentations to the council about how we're operating and what we're doing, and try to improve the services.
No, I know, but I just keep getting the same complaints all the time.
We've been doing a lot. We've extended the hours. I believe we added another inspector, 2, right? 2 inspectors. We negotiated a flex time in the inspectors' hours, so they will be able to inspect earlier and later in the day to accommodate people. Yeah, we've made a lot of, you've seen the changes that we've made. It's extremely busy. You see over 6,000 permits.
It's just that I keep, people, I've had several complaints this week.
They need to contact us.
I actually had a business that was opening, and they came to me, and they were very, very upset.
We work with that, Steve and I. We take that very serious with the businesses, and we physically go. I was there at a business, I don't know if it was yesterday or today. I was on site with a business. Anyone having a problem needs to contact us.
I told them that.
A lot of people like to talk.
But a lot of people are afraid, though, because they said to me that we're afraid if we complain that we're going to get punished. And I told them they wouldn't.
That's not. They come in my office, and we put all the parties together around the table and hammer it out. So we'll keep working with anybody who wants to work with us.
Okay, we already ran out once, we're
I
gonna.
haven't spoken.
You didn't speak?
No.
Oh, I
No,
apologize.
that's
I thought
okay.
you did.
No.
My apologies.
Could you tell me what date the TNR ordinance was signed?
I didn't hear, Anita, I'm sorry.
What date was the
What
TNR ordinance
date of the
signed?
TNR being signed? Do you know?
No,
I don't, off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay, well, if you could check and get back to me, we said we would have a committee formed 60 days after that. It's spring, there's a lot of cats out there getting pregnant, and we're not helping the situation. I spoke with the Animal Protection League. They are on board to help the town. We can do a presentation at the library. They have lists of different agencies that will do the help with the TNR. They said, you know, they want to get the message out for residents. We want to help with training and if they need traps. So, you know, if we could get that moving, we, you know, all unanimously voted for it, so I would like to get that moving forward. As far as the COA, we can go back and forth about that. No one has the idea to say what's going to be built in the future, but when you vote, you should think about what the future is going to be. They did have a master who never stepped foot in Old Bridge that made decisions. I'm sure everyone's uncomfortable with it. One of the things that was lacking for me after sitting on the planning board for many years, and I always valued the input of the township planner and the township engineer, and I think that should have been the first discussion to hear their opinion on the projects. So with that said, I also just wanted to comment, because my name, I just want to let everyone, I am not running. I don't know why I am being viciously attacked throughout the town. I have broad shoulders, I can handle it. But when people lie and accuse me of doing something illegal, that has crossed the line in politics. People should run on their record and their accomplishments if they're here for 17 years. But I do want to correct something since Mr. Green brought it up about his health plan. I'm not saying he has it from New York now, but when he was on the township, he did. And he had it from the town. But the thing that's the most disturbing, after he voted to change the policy for the township employees, which he was part of that plan, I guess he didn't like it, because then that's when he switched and he bailed, and now he takes insurance from the MUA, the Municipal Utility Authority. So people don't want to tell the truth, and it's very sad how you can twist the truth. And bottom line is, I think it is despicable when people go down this road at this time and say things that are so negative. And when really, if I was in a position where I was on the council for X amount of years, even 1 year, even 6 months, if I couldn't talk about something positive that I brought forward, I wouldn't talk. And so the bottom line is, in the campaign, if you can't talk about all the positive things that you've done for 17 years or 15 years or 14 years, whatever it is, and you have to talk about other people and look up things and say things that are so vile and malicious, I think it is really, really disturbing. And I urge the residents to really stand up and say they deserve better. And I thank you very much all the time for the townships, for the people that come forward in the public, that bring your issues forward and take the time out of your busy day and your schedule to do that, because that helps us to be better council members. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
I'm going to close the council comments portion. No, Mr. Green, we're not going around again. We're not doing this
Why
again.
not?
We're not going around again. So I just want to make a couple comments. Mr. Piscetti brought my name up again. I'm going to push back. For the record, I did vote for TNR. That's your opinion, that public opinion changed my vote. There was a robust discussion that took place over many, many meetings, and I came to the conclusion on my own. You can state your opinion all you want, but the record is the record. There was a mention of a meeting that took place with Dr. Greenberg. I'd asked if there's meetings that take place that all council be notified, if there's special meetings that are going on. With that, I'll ask for an adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Mr. Mollis, second by Mr. Green. Roll call to adjourn.
Ms. Dungy.
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Mollis? Mr. Rosencrantz?
Yes.
Mrs. Sohor? Mrs. Walker? President Cahill?
Yes, we're adjourned.
Yes.